Occupation versus job title. If you want to know the difference between these two, watch this video till the end and you'll have three main points that you'll be able to remember. If you want to find your ideal vocation, occupation, or business niche, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you know whenever a new video comes out. Also, if you find that you like this video, remember to hit the like button below. Okay, so you might be wondering what's the difference between occupation and job title. And the reality is that these two terms share a lot of similarities and their differences come to nuances. So in order to find out those nuances, we need to have three main points that will actually allow us to see the differences more in depth. And in order to do that, we'll first have to define what each of those terms mean. So the first point is actually knowing what is an occupation. So basically an occupation is a job, what you do for a living, work. It could be either as a student, that's your occupation, being a full-time student. It could be as a business owner. It could be as an employee of any type. When we talk about occupations, we're talking about the type of work that you do in very general terms. Why? Because government agencies, they like to classify the types of work that people do and how much each type of work is actually contributing to the economy. So for example, you might have that an occupation might be medical services and healthcare. Another, that's very general. It could be many different things. You could have another one being attorney services. You could have farm laborers. You could have factory workers, for example. And it goes, the list is very, very long actually, the list of occupation. Okay, so if an occupation is basically the job you have, and again, by job, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're an employee, and that's an important nuance that we're gonna see later. Then that takes us to point two, and that is knowing the meaning of a job title. What exactly is a job title? So the job title is basically a name for a position that a worker has within a company. Now, it's important to notice that whenever you're talking about a job title, we are strictly talking in the context of employees within a company. So what do we mean by this? Even if you're the business owner and you have a title, let's say the CEO or something like that, well, the CEO is the job title of the person who is the biggest manager or the biggest leader within that company and who is an employee of the company, because you're getting a compensation from the company even if you also happen to be the owner. This is a big difference because the job title is going to be maybe different within companies, within different industries, even within the same industry. Some companies may have different job titles or job titles that may be equal between the two companies but signal very different seniorities. So for example, you may be working as a consultant for a firm of consultants. So basically the firm is providing consulting services to other companies out there who might need those services, those consulting services. So basically the main difference here might be that even though the people in that company who are consultants share the same occupation, they're all giving consulting services or an occupation like that, right? They share the same occupation. Not everyone in that firm who is a consultant will have the same job title. For example, many consulting firms, many consulting companies actually have titles such as analyst, associate, engagement manager, and so on. So some people who are consultants, one may have the job title analyst, another may have the job title associate, and those are different job titles within the same company. So for example, I know many firms in which the consultants that have the job titles analyst are actually junior from the consultants who have job title associate. So basically associates were promoted from analysts, okay? And that is in some consulting firms. Now other consulting firms might have different job titles or different hierarchies with different job titles. In other words, they could name their consultants differently. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not doing the same occupation or the same type of work. Does that make sense? If it doesn't make sense, or even if it does, comment below and let me know if so far this is making sense. So a job title is just a name that is given to a certain position within a company. Even if you are in the same industry, the same job title may not necessarily mean that you're doing the same type of work, even if you're doing the same occupation. Now, let's put an example of different industries to give you an illustration of how a job title is very dependent on the company itself. For example, we already mentioned the consultants, right? Who have, like, let's say, analysts and associates, and knowing that within many firms, many consulting firms, the associates have more hierarchy and are paid more than the analysts, even though they are in the same occupation. And the only difference here will be that, let's say, the associates have more experience, they have done more work, and they've been promoted. Now, if you go into, let's say, equity research at a bank or a hedge fund or a portfolio managing firm of any kind, then you will have that in many of them, the roles are reversed, even though it's not the same industry, right? Then you have that many people who have, they are in investing, the same occupation, investing, researching equities, the same occupation, but people who are analysts as a job title can be, in many cases, more senior than those who are associates. So many of them go after taking an advanced degree, they go in, they enter the firm as an associate, and then they get promoted to analyst. So there is the other way around. Now, you may have other firms. I used to work one as an economist, which is an occupation, and you will have analysts, and you will also have economists as job title. And there, the job title will be very similar to the occupation, but I will have people, even I was an analyst, despite the fact that my occupation is an economist. So they will have those two separate positions. And even within each position, they will rank them. They will say, okay, you're an analyst 1, you're an analyst 2, analyst 3. In that particular firm, the analyst 3 had more seniority than the analyst 1, but in some other places it's the other way around. The analyst 1 has more seniority, more pay, more everything than the analyst 3. So that's why job titles can be very, very specific to the firm, to the company. In some industries, sometimes because of a higher degree of transparency and competitiveness, then they will have somewhat more of a standardized job titles across companies within the same industry. But even then, that means that the job titles are still just referencing, just a way to name it, to name what you're doing at the company. And it doesn't necessarily have to say what you're actually doing day to day. And that's an important distinction. You could be doing the same occupation and have a bazillion different titles, if that makes sense. So this takes us to point 3, and that is, what are the differences in occupation versus job title? As we mentioned before, and as you may have already figured out yourself, there are many similarities, right? They are both general terms that don't specifically mention what you are doing day to day necessarily. They are both still somewhat generalized in the sense that they don't, even the job title doesn't necessarily always tell you what is a person's position in the company, their seniority, and how much they should be making, and that kind of thing. So they're still relatively vague. But the main difference here will be, an occupation is just a generalized field of work that you are in, while a job title is specifically within the context of an employee within a company or a government agency or whatever, and basically the name that their position has within that company. So you cannot have a job title if you don't have a job. While even if you don't have a job, if you are a student or you are a stay-at-home mom or you are trading or investing securities for yourself or doing anything else that is not like as an employee, you still have an occupation. You're a student, you're a housewife, you are a trader, for example. And that will be your occupation, but you wouldn't necessarily have a job title, because the job title is simply the way a company, when they're hiring you, they put that title on there, right? And if you're wondering what to put in a form that you're filling out or something along those lines, if they ask for occupation, you can just give them your general occupation. If you feel better just saying that you are, a CEO, instead of saying that you're a manager or something along those lines, go ahead and just do it. Because oftentimes in those forms, it's not really for like very nitty-gritty information. It's simply because they want to have an idea of what is it that you're doing, and that's it. You don't even have to be very specific with it. So now you know what an occupation is, what a job title is, and what the differences are between these two terms. If you like this video, remember to hit the like button below, subscribe to this channel, and hit the notification bell so you know whenever a new video comes out. Also, remember to comment below if you have anything that you would like to share, ask, or if there was anything you didn't understand. and share this video with your friends who may be asking the same thing. Bye bye.